There is a big story today, per Just the News and John Solomon, which is about Jack Smith and his investigation of the January 6th riot at the Capitol. And what has just been revealed by Dan Bongino and Kash Patel at the FBI is actually quite shocking, I have to say, even for Jack Smith and the Biden DOJ. And it is that the FBI and Jack Smith collected the private phone records of 8, I've also heard 10, Republican senators and 1 GOP House member as part of his investigation of the J6 riot. So he went, according to Senator Chuck Grassley, to the private phone companies and subpoenaed the private phone records of U.S. senators, all Republicans, to see who they were talking to, when they were talking to them, the duration of the call, and the general location data of the call. He couldn't hear the contents of the calls themselves. It wasn't a wiretap, but got all that information for some 10 Republican lawmakers from the dates of January 4th through January 7th, 2021. The lawmakers included Lindsey Graham, Bill Hagerty, Josh Hawley, Dan Sullivan, Tommy Tuberville, Ron Johnson, Cynthia Lummis, Marsha Blackburn, and GOP Representative Mike Kelly. It was all conducted via a grand jury subpoena that Jack Smith got and then served on the phone companies through his cellular analysis survey team. He then looked at the information, and Chuck Grassley's office revealed that the FBI found this piece of the investigation in what was called a prohibited access file in response to Grassley's oversight requests. Grassley must have gotten wind that there might be such a thing. So the FBI started digging and digging to see if they could find it. It was hidden in a prohibited access file that is meant to limit the ability of FBI agents to access certain documents. But they got in there. A former executive assistant director of the FBI tells Just the News, Chris Wray would have had to be involved in approving this rule. There is no way this would have happened without the head of the FBI signing off on it. And now you really do have things going to the next level when you look at the Jack Smith investigation, subpoenaing secretly Republican members of Congress and their private cell phone messages. Your thoughts on it, Rich?
Yeah, well, that should be a real red line. And I always thought Jack Smith was a fanatic. I hated January 6th. I think it was terrible. It was a blight on the country. I don't think it was a crime or Donald Trump committed crimes on that day. Obviously, the rioters committed crimes. But this was an effort because the impeachment failed to have a do-over and try to go after Trump criminally. And it was obviously all done with a political timetable. He wanted to get after this and in the classified documents case on an expedited timetable that was ridiculous compared to the usual timetable in these cases, just with an eye to the November elections last year. That was wrong. I think Smith just lost his mind over this matter. I can understand how that might happen. It was a terrible thing. But if this is true and correct, it'd be another sign of that.
Kash Patel said, under our watch, the FBI will never again be turned against the American people. Dan Bongino said, under our leadership, the FBI will never again be used as a political weapon against the American people. It's a disgrace that I have to stand on Capitol Hill and reveal this, that the FBI was once weaponized to track the private communications of U.S. lawmakers for political purposes. That era is over. There are Republicans who are very angry over this, Charles, including Josh Hawley, who is one of the senators targeted. I mean, this just whiffs of serious separations of powers issues here, because you've got Jack Smith, who worked in the executive branch under the Attorney General, without notice to sitting U.S. senators and House members, getting their private phone communications right around the time when the election was being certified. I mean, right around, like, I know we all feel the same about January 6th, that it was terrible. And the three of us have never run excuses for January 6th. However, there was the certification of an election that was about to happen, and there would have been conversations about it. And are there any legitimate objections, just like we saw Democrats raise in every earlier election won by a Republican? And to have the FBI spying on those Republican senators and any communications they had, with lawyers? Did they want to find out if they spoke to lawyers off campus who specialize in election law? And then that person became the focus of their crosshairs? Is there another secret FBI file where they then zeroed in on those guys? Like, we've crossed here, like a bridge I don't think we've crossed before. Chuck Grassley is saying this is almost as bad as Watergate.
Well, it's just so unlike the FBI to behave like a fourth branch of government, start tracking the phone conversations and records of people it dislikes. I mean, is there any point in the history of the FBI which it hasn't done this? If Kash Patel stops it, it'll be the first time in its history. This is classic Hoover-style conduct. This is where it gets so annoying for those of us who are staunch critics of January 6th, and in my case, who didn't vote for President Trump over January 6th, because despite my repeated and sincere condemnations of January 6th, I don't think that gave the government carte blanche to do anything it wanted. And I also don't think that it is an all-purpose excuse to oppose anything right of center. Unfortunately, there are too many people within our politics who have adopted that approach. And one of them was Jack Smith, who really, I think, responded in a way that made January 6th worse, in a sense. Because what you had at January 6th was a thankfully unsuccessful and never going to be successful repudiation of American constitutional norms. And what you have had in response to January 6th, sometimes from Jack Smith, is a repudiation of American constitutional norms. And you do not fix violations of constitutional norms by adding more violations of constitutional norms on top. Now, this wasn't Jack Smith necessarily, but we saw another one, for example, with the attempt to disqualify Donald Trump from the 2024 election in certain states because of January 6th. I see all of these things of a piece. I think you had a terrible and embarrassing incident that should be long in the memory, and those who were responsible for it should be vilified. I also see a response from certain parts of the government that we should be extremely uncomfortable with as small L liberal, classical liberal Americans, and this is a good part of that.
Did you know gold is up around 40% this year? That's not speculation, it's reality. And if a portion of your savings is not diversified into gold, you are missing the boat. Here are the facts. Inflation is still too high. The US dollar is still too weak. And the government debt is still growing. This is why central banks are flocking to gold. They're the ones driving prices up to record highs. But it's not too late to buy gold from Birch Gold Group and get in the door now. Birch Gold will help you convert an existing IRA or 401k into one in gold. You don't pay a penny out of pocket. Just text MK to 989898 and claim your free info kit. There's no obligation, just useful information. The best indicator of the future is the past, and gold has historically been a safe haven. Text MK to 989898 right now to claim your free info kit on gold. MK to 989898. Protect your future today with Birch Gold. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.